Becky, we're gonna mute ourselves, but if you need them to turn their mic on, just let them know.
Absolutely. Thank you. Welcome, guys. Hello, everyone. Got a few more coming in. Fix that, right?
Yes.
And it does say that it's recording, so that's
You can see in the top left.
gotcha. Okay. We'll wait just a few more minutes to see if we have a few more people moving into our horse room. Welcome, everyone, though. I'm glad y'all are here this evening. Oh, we lost somebody.
No, I think they just took off there. They're in the camera.
Okay. All right. Looks like we're getting a few more in our horse room. We're going to wait just another minute or two until we get everybody transitioned over. Okay, guys? Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started in the horse room. Can everyone hear me okay? Y'all give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. All right, very good. I know we've got a few that have their cameras on. Y'all keep those on because I might ask for a thumbs up occasionally, so I might need the feedback. So appreciate that. Got several with their cameras off, and that's okay too. What we're going to do is I have a PowerPoint for you today. So we're going to go through some slides and that type of thing. And then I also have with me Kinsley and Louie, and they're going to be explaining some things from a student perspective. We have some questions that some of y'all actually sent in prior to tonight. We're going to go over some of those questions, and then we'll also at the very end open it up for questions as well. So if you have some specific questions that we didn't cover and maybe want to go into a little bit more detail, we will field those questions at that time as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my PowerPoint with you next. Right here, right? And can y'all see the screen that actually has the let's reason about it? I'm getting some thumbs up. Okay, fantastic. So I have got that on a different screen ahead of me. So how am I going to forward that up there, y'all? Is that going to work?
Your remote.
Oh,
Let me get it.
yeah, let's grab that remote and see.
Mm.
That's what I
Did it
was-
work on the computer? Did you click the arrow or
Whatever.
these? Yeah.
Yeah, that worked.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, even better. Okay, here we go. So horse judging reasons. I hope that y'all are excited about reasons as I am. You know, I tell my students that horse judging reasons is actually like a whole nother contest. You have the horse judging contest where you evaluate the horses and you judge them for their merit. But then the presentation side of reasons actually turns into a whole nother contest. We know that, so we've got district coming up, especially in District 8 coming up very soon. And that's April 6th in Bryan. And so the reasons, intermediate teams will give one set of halter reasons. Y'all are all prepared to do that, right, intermediates? Yeah? Thumbs up. Okay. And then our seniors will give two sets. They'll give a halter set as well as a performance set. And Kinsley and Lou are going to talk a little bit more in detail about that. And Kinsley's going to give a set for y'all too, so that you can see an example of that. But you know, reasons is your time to shine. It truly is. You get to be the judge. You know, I've had some kids in the past place a class completely backwards, but still get a good reason score because they were confident in what they had to say. And they evaluated the horses just in a different way and reprioritized some things. So don't worry about if you don't place them exactly right. You're the judge. You are the official and you're the expert. And all you have to do is convince another horse expert that you're right. So again, your time to shine. That's what makes reasons fun. So before you can give good reasons, you have to know what you're looking at. And I just wanted to quickly make sure that everyone is aware of some of the resources that we utilize on our team and that are available to horse judging coaches and horse judging team members. And the first one is the AQHA Competitive Horse Judging Guide. And this manual can be found on the AQHA website. You can download it for free. And it is a guide, again, not only for members, but also for coaches. And I put up there on the screen, those are the different chapters that are within the manual. It even has one that's coaching the team. It talks about developing a set of reasons. It talks about confirmation of your horse. And then it goes into the halter classes as well as all the different various performance classes that we may judge in a horse judging contest. And those of you who are new to horse judging, most of you realize, but you may not know, that you're going to have more performance classes than halter classes. Typically, we have 2 or 3 halter classes, and those are at the end of the contest. We go down on the floor. We get to evaluate the horses at eye level, which is extremely beneficial when you're evaluating horses. But the performance classes are judged from the stands. And typically at district contests, a lot of times we'll have a reining class. We'll have possibly Western riding. We almost always start with a trail class. They set that up initially, and then they'll take down the trail obstacles and move on to something else. We can have Western classes. We can have English classes. Hunter Hack is one of our favorite English classes to judge because we talk about the number of strides between the jumps. Horsemanship equitation, which if you're English, it's equitation. If you're Western, it's horsemanship. Again, we're judging the rider as opposed to the actual horse. And then the connected terms that you'll use in your reason sets. This is a very, very valuable tool and resource. Another tool that I really like that I think is extremely important, especially if you're in the Central Texas area and your district contest is going to be at A&M. And that is the A&M Judging Manual. I picked up one of these a couple of years ago when we went to the A&M clinic and Dr. Schobert did the clinic, had those for sale. And it is invaluable because not only does it have the chapters about the basic coat colors, the halter classes, performance classes, the reason format, it has the 9-box system, which we'll get into a little bit later when you're for your reasons format, but it has the terminology that is used by the Texas A&M horse judging team. It has bingo words, and we'll talk about those as well. And then I think this is extremely valuable, and those are the sample sets of reasons that the A&M students actually provided for the resource. And if I'm going to give reasons back to someone, I want to use the words that they use and give them back to them. I think you score higher typically. So the sample reason sets are invaluable. And then at the very back, it has the scorecards. And the scorecards are great because it helps you with the performance classes. And again, we'll get into that a little bit more detail when we start talking about notes. Other resources, guys, that we utilize. Those are our main ones.
Yes, we usually take those every contest. We study them before, the night before, in the morning, and it's just a good thing to refresh the brain on those bingo words. I know Sarah Schobert likes to use those.
Absolutely. When you arrive at a contest, I will say this, coaches, you need to get there early and you want to get your registration packet early because you will be given, you know, the set of patterns, and then you can go back and look at those patterns and review these specific manuals for, you know, your penalty points that may be taken off if a horse does, you know, a certain maneuver incorrectly. So arriving early, having these resources with you at the contest, I think is a really good strategy. All right, so let's talk about notes. Our team utilizes stenos. I went ahead and took a picture of a kind of a fictitious class steno, and this is a very simplistic set of notes. I think sometimes we get a little bit overwhelmed and sometimes we try to write down too many things and then you miss the important things. In horse judging, you need to see the important things and then you need to be able to reiterate those back to your reasons judge. But on the right is, again, a class of aged mares, and just wrote the placings and the 4 blanks up at the top, 3, 1, 2, 4. Again, this is kind of a fictitious class, but again, good reasons start with good notes. When we evaluate our halter horses, there are 4 basic criteria for which we evaluate horses. And again, if you're new to horse judging, this is good information. If this is something that you do all the time, then I'm repeating myself a little bit, but that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to go back over things and make sure that you review them and you know them. Balance, structure, quality, muscling. Balance is the top priority. That's the type criteria by which we evaluate horses. Structure is going to be our secondary characteristic when we evaluate. Is everything okay? I'm kind of looking at somebody's screen. Are y'all able to see my PowerPoint still? Okay, fantastic. The third criteria in third order is quality. And quality doesn't refer just to overall quality, but it also refers to the breed and sex characteristics of that particular individual. So we want to make sure that our guys look like guys and gals look like gals. We want femininity and masculinity on our horses, depending upon, you know, the class. And then the last criteria is muscling. And I will hit on this just a moment. Our performance classes, those of us who maybe have a rodeo background or those that compete with horses, muscling is important, but truth be told, the majority of our horses are adequately muscled. We don't want them, too stocky and over muscled. So muscling is the fourth criteria, still important, but it's not at the top. Balance is at the top. So looking back to the notes that I have here, I numbered my horses 1, 2, 3, 4. I put next to the numbers IDs. So went with a color coat on all of them. And then I added some little something that was noticeable to me. What I like to do is write down the very first thing that I notice about a horse. And this number 1 horse is a bay. And immediately I saw that she had a big Roman nose. So that's what I put as an ID as well. So always go with a color coat, but also give some type of ID in addition to that. The number 2 horse is a sorrel, it's got a star. Number 3 is a sorrel that had socks. Number 4 is a palomino and was a blaze face. So be sure and write down your IDs for each one of your horses on your notes accordingly. And then guys, in a halter class, we're going to go through and sort that criteria again for balance, structure, quality, and muscling. And what I have my team do in their notes is to look at this animal and evaluate each one of them individually. Is this animal above average? Is this animal average, or is this below average? And I use plus signs. So if we're looking at the number 1 horse, the bay horse has a Roman nose. For balance, I put okay, because the horse was fine, wasn't just anything outstanding. And then I added a note that says a strong top line. For structure, I put a plus because this guy just was built great. Structure is trying to take the skin and hide off of a horse and look at their skeleton and see if they are structurally correct from a skeletal standpoint. And so if they are standing on a straight column of bone and solid, then you want to give them a plus sign for that. So they're above average in structure. Quality, I went ahead and said that this animal was a little bit below average in quality because she had a thick neck and she wasn't nice and trim. Remember, we want our mares, even our aged mares, to look like gals. We want them feminine about their face and neck and head. And so I put a negative there because my observation was that she was a little bit below average on femininity, so the quality. Muscling, I put plus, I put huge forearm and huge gaskin. And so that was a great thing, attribute about that particular horse. But I won't talk all 4 horses, but you can see in this particular class, I plussed or minused or said they were okay. Now, if there was a structural issue, like in the number 2 horse, I put that this horse was pigeon-toed. I mean, this horse is toed in. So that's a structural defect. It's got to be noted. And for accuracy purposes in your set, you've got to call them out. Got to be accurate. Anyway, you can see again the sorrel, the palomino, just kind of what I saw. And then in your notes, you've got to write down what you see. And it needs to be, again, somewhat accurate, something that you can talk about. The way this class is placed is 3, 1, 2, 4. If you look on the number 3 sorrel horse, I've got a plus by balance, plus by structure, plus by quality. I put okay by muscle. So because this horse has the most pluses in the criteria as listed, so she's going to start the class. Does that kind of make sense to everyone? Yeah. And I bottomed the number 4 horse, which is the palomino, because I have a negative by balance because she's long backed. Waspy backed is what some people refer that to. I also noticed that she was calf kneed, so that she stands with her knees up under her and her feet forward. So that's a structural defect. That's kind of a bad thing, because remember that the majority of the weight a horse carries is on their front end. And we don't want something that's calf kneed where their knees are going to buckle. So that's a major defect. I'm going to put a negative by structure and place her towards the bottom. Okay on quality, and then she was muscled up, but nice and toned. So I'll give her a plus there, but still she stays last. And that's the terminology we might use when we do this set. But does anyone have any questions about the notes that you see here, or the criteria by which we evaluate our horses in the halter classes? Anybody? Any questions? I see a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Is it Ingrid? Go ahead.
What do you mean on number 4 in the muscling? What do you mean by toned?
Toned. Okay, good question. So just like a person goes to the gym to tone up or tune up, if they're well toned, that means that they're nicely muscled. It's really just a different way to express that they are heavily muscled. Yeah, they're toned. Good question. Does anyone else see anything that they want to ask about on the notes? Okay, so from there, we're going to take those notes that we just made in the class that we watched, and we're going to do a 9-box system. What I do is I have my kids literally draw a tic-tac-toe board on their steno, and the tic-tac-toe board gives you 9 boxes. This is the format that you're going to use for every single class that you're going to give reasons on. And within those boxes, you're going to write down what you see and use the format every single time. So I'm going to change slides and I'm going to jump back and forth just a little bit. But this is a resource that I created for my team that I'm glad to share with you all. And it is just a transitions help for reasons boxes. You see, it's like a tic-tac-toe board. Everybody see the 9 boxes? Up in the top left-hand corner with the green arrow, that's where you start, because the tic-tac-toe board is going to have rows that go across, and then it's going to have columns that go down. But remember, whenever we talk reasons and we judge horses, there's always cuts. The cuts are between the different pairs. So you're always going to have a top pair, which is your top 2 horses. You're going to have your middle pair, which is the green row in the middle. And then you're going to have your final pair or your bottom pair, which are your last 2 place horses. Okay. Going down your tic-tac-toe board, your first column in blue there is your advantage box. Okay. That's going to be why that horse has the advantage within each one of the pairs, your top pair, middle pair, and bottom pair. In the middle column is your grant box, because no horse typically is going to just win outright without another horse having some type of positive attributes that we can't grant back over our initial winner in that pair. So the grant is something that you would say, well, I didn't miss, or not to take away, or now I'll grant that this horse maybe possibly was heavier muscled, and you go back and grant your second place horse in your pairs. The very last column is the criticism box, where again you have to go back and justify the placings based upon what you saw initially, and those are in purple on the far right hand column. So I'm hoping the color coding helps everybody. There's columns, there's rows, but what you're going to do is you're going to start in your top pair advantage box, and you're going to work your way through across and talk your top pair, your middle pair, and your bottom pair. And that's the method by which you do all reasons. There are some within this actual diagram, some transition words that I like to use. What I suggest everybody to do is to come up with your own transition words that flow off of your tongue easily. And let me jump back and talk about that. You are going to do an intro where you say, I like the aged mares, or I place the aged mares. And then you're going to go ahead and do your placings 4, 3, 2, 1, or however you place the class. You may use an introductory phrase. I would highly encourage seniors to do that. Maybe some type of simple statement about starting with the heaviest muscled mare and ending with the poorest structured mare, or something like that would be an introductory phrase that is both accurate and just general in statement. As you go from box to box to box, guys, you're going to use your correct tone and voice inflection. So you want to make sure that when you're talking about your winner, you're excited. He's the winner, right? And then when you go into your grant box, when you say, now I didn't miss, you change your voice and your tone. And then when you go to your final column, when you're actually talking about criticism, sometimes I use the word unfortunately or sadly, especially when I'm talking in the bottom pair, if there's some type of structure defect or something. We're going to talk all the way through, and our voice is going to change throughout because we're talking winners, we're talking in the middle, and then we're going to talk, losers at the end. So we're sad to have losers, but I will say this. You need to find at least one positive attribute about every single horse in the class, even your last place horse, because you're going to have to go back and grant that horse in the bottom pair box where you didn't miss, and I do appreciate and I do acknowledge. Those are all transition terms into that middle bottom box that you're going to have to find something positive to say about that last place horse. So again, find your transition words, and I say the horse judging resource guide is full of different transition phrases and words that you can use. And there are certain words that I like to say more than others, just like you do. And I would encourage you to find the words that you enjoy. So guys, do y'all have certain ones that y'all like go to, your transition phrases? Anything that you really appreciate saying all the time? And, and here's the other thing. You can say the same thing for every set when it comes to transitions, if it's a transitional phrase that you're used to. So what are y'all's favorites?
I usually use unfortunately because usually in every class there's one horse that you think is going to be in the top pair or maybe even in the middle pair, but they just don't make it, and you kind of feel bad for the horse and you kind of want to tell the judge, unfortunately she had a fault in one area or another. So I like to use unfortunately in pretty much every set of reasons I give. And it's just a word that flows with everything else, so I like to use that word.
Perfect. Kinsley, you have a favorite?
When I'm granting, I like to say, now I'll grant that, so that they know I'm in my middle column, and it helps my reasons to flow better.
Absolutely. I think using the word grant lets the reason taker know that you know what you're talking about, that you're following the correct format. So I like both of those. That makes a lot of sense. All right. I'm going to jump back again to this other slide. Starting with, caught my eye, beginning with are all, typical type transitional phrases that you can use. But remember, you're going to talk your top pair, middle pair, bottom pair, just in that same format. And, just like you would the cuts in between. Advantages, criticisms, advantages, grants, and then criticisms. And then the last two words of every reason set are the words thank you, because we appreciate the reason taker listening to us talk about our horses and our placings. So I'm going to leave this up here for just a second. Does anyone have any questions about this particular resource? Any questions about what you see on the screen right now? Does it make sense to everybody? Excellent. Okay. I hope this is something maybe similar to what your coaches are teaching y'all in the same format. This is just, like I said, I like to color code things. And so sometimes it just kind of brings it to life when it's color coded. So if there are no questions about that, we'll move on. And we'll talk about presentation. Like I mentioned when we opened up, there are two contests. Well, actually, I say three because there's the Scantron contest. And guys, the Scantron contest is real. You got to get your Scantron bubbled right, okay? It matters not. Yeah, there's some people in the crowd who are guilty of that in the past. No finger pointing. You've got to make sure that you transfer from your steno or from your notebook onto your Scantron exactly how you intend to place those classes. And you have to make sure that if it's a reasons contest, that you bubble in reasons appropriately. We've had tears shed in our county over lost contests because we didn't win the Scantron contest. We just didn't bubble correctly. So just throwing that out there. But horse evaluation and then reasons. So reasons are the presentation side of things. And the very first thing that you want to do is make a good impression as you walk up. Dress to impress. If you look at the picture that I'm showing on the screen, this was our team back in Denver in 2022. We decided to go ahead and wear matching wild rags just to kind of coordinate, but each girl also got to do and choose her own style. And so that was kind of unique for that team. You do want to wear a blazer. You do want to wear boots. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I'm pretty blunt with my team. When you're doing your presentation, you will not take a steno with you. You will not take notes with you, and you will wear boots. Okay, it's a horse judging contest. Do not show up in some type of little dude shoes or some kind of little canvas. Now, well, you can wear them in the office while you're watching, guys. But I'm talking about when you go to a horse judging contest, the correct attire to wear is a blazer and boots. Okay. Now, I'm not going to say you can't wear a dark pair of jeans, but do not show up with holy jeans. Okay. Leave your Jesus jeans at home. We are going to wear nice clothes, and our first impression is going to be good. If you have long hair and you like to play with your hair, braid that stuff, tie it back. Okay. Don't let that be a nervous tick as you do your presentation, but you want to dress to impress. Other thing, I think that sometimes we get so nervous, guys, and y'all back me up on this. The reasons taker is your friend. They are another horse enthusiast. They want to hear what you thought about the class. They truly do. So they want you to do well. They're pulling for you. Most of the time, you can see it. They've got their notebook and they're looking down, but they're looking into your eyes because they say, here's another kid just like me when I was in 4-H and FFA that's doing horse judging, and they want to learn about horses. So remembering those things, you need to relax and be excited to talk about another horse enthusiast. That makes sense? Yeah. A lot of times they will nod and affirm you. A lot of times they will smile at you. Give them something to smile about. So, perfect score is a 50. We know this, right? Just like if you 50 a class and place it correctly. But if you were at the Houston contest this year, when Dr. Sarah Schobert was on the mic and gave the critiques, she reminded everyone that you don't use notes. If you use your notes, you get a 20 or less. A 20 out of 50, that's 30 points, guys, that you're giving away, that you're saying, here, I don't want those 30 points because I'm going to use my steno as a crutch. Whew, that sounds kind of harsh, but guys, that's the truth. You cannot walk in there with notes. Don't do it. If you struggle with that, guys, you just got to keep practicing. And the more you practice, right, guys,
Yes.
the better you're going to get. When you're an intermediate and you're a 6th grader and you're giving your first set, I get it. It's tough. It's supposed to be hard, right? It's something that you're going to develop over time. You're not going to walk in as a 6th grader and be an expert, right? So give yourself some grace, but know that there is a standard, and that standard is you will work and you will practice up to the point where you'll walk up to that reasons taker without any notes. Okay? Point made on that. Everybody good? Okay. If you get in there and you start talking, guys, and you just completely have lost what you were talking about, you want to take a deep breath and you want to go back to your boxes and you want to try to visualize the horses. So in your notes, remember I told you I want you to write down your first impression, because that first impression of that horse is something that you can always go back to and rely upon if you start stumbling or if you get lost within your set. So think about the horses as you talk about them. As you progress and you work through your boxes, think about your boxes as you go. Start with that front row. You're talking your top pair. After you finish that top pair, your third box, which is the criticism box on the top pair, go ahead and take a breath. Give yourself a mental split second and take a pause, and then progress to your second row of boxes, which is your middle pair. Okay? And then if you allow yourself a short mental break between each pair sets, it will help you. And those natural pauses are perfectly acceptable because, again, you're going from pair to pair to pair. I'm going to go back to my slides. It is not an essay. Guys, there are very few people in this world that are able to write out a set of reasons, word for word for word, memorize it precisely, and then go and present it as such in front of judges. I still have kids on my team who I love dearly that try to do this. And they're going to learn the lesson eventually that you're going to have to go to the box method and go box to box to box. Okay? Does that make sense? It's not an essay. Most people can probably 50 a reasons class if they were able to hand in a set if they were to write it out as an essay. But that's not what it's about. It's about being able to present it. It's the presentation that's important. So it's a critique. Do it methodically, go box to box to box. And then whatever you do, guys, smile and be confident. So my son helps me a little bit on this presentation. He just finished up with Texas Tech on the life site judging team. And he told me his best advice for all of y'all was to, he's now taking reasons. He said, there's nothing worse than a kid that comes up, that looks down, that looks miserable to be there, that is not happy to be there. And I mean, you want the kid to do well, but they're not having fun. You're not having fun. It's just not a great experience. He said, tell these kiddos to be fun to listen to. Be upbeat, be positive, be memorable, and show the reasons taker that you're willing to learn, that you're in this horse judging project because you want to learn more about good horses, that you want to, you're enjoying your learning. Show them that you are learning and you want to learn more. So that's advice from Kyle. and I think that's pretty good advice. Show them that you're enjoying the experience. Do not act miserable. Do not look down at the ground. Use voice expression and be influential. So I know I've got some 3rd and 4th graders on my horse judging team. I told them this week at practice, pretend that you're talking to your friend at the lunch table about your favorite horse and describe that horse. And then you can hear the enthusiasm in your voice about talking to that particular horse. And then unfortunately, there's brother's horse or whoever's horse, that maybe the least barn favorite. But use that voice inflection and be influential in your sets. All right. Just in everything you do, guys, the more you practice, the better you're going to be at it, right? Does everybody love to practice? Not really. If we're being honest, we like to go to contests and win, right?
Yes.
But the winning comes after the practice. And so I am going to step back for just a minute and kind of let the girls take over and talk about what they do to practice, some of their best strategies. And then we're also going to answer the questions that you all submitted from Miss Megan. And Kinsley is going to give you a set that she worked up and practiced so that she can give you a demonstration of what it looks like to be in the reasons room and what a good set looks like. She's on my senior team and she has really worked her way up. I will say this, when Kinsley first started 4-H, she is naturally more of a shy person. Would you say that's true?
Yes.
And she has just powered through this, and I've been so proud of her. She and Louie both are good speakers, and but they practice. So, guys, best mode of practice. What do y'all suggest? Louie, why don't you start?
The 9-box tip is, it was hard for me at first trying to memorize the order of them, and what I did was I tried to talk about random things in the house. So I like this things better and I like to rank them and then talk about them while I'm seeing them and have that order. From the grant to the criticism was my hardest part. So why I like the TV more than the couch or why I like my bed more than the kitchen. And it really helped me for my sets for horses, and my reasons really went up this past year. So I like to use that.
I like to practice in front of the mirror so I can look at my facial expressions, and I also video myself so I can see how I sound and if I'm really getting my tone of voice down for the correct box through the 9-box method.
Right.
My older sister did horse judging, and so I like to get her and my mom, they like to judge. And I get them to watch me do a set, and as soon as I mess up, they'll correct me. So I do a set of reasons probably 10 or 15 times, just trying to get it down. And that's, again, really helpful.
Right. Now, y'all know that if you have a coach that truly cares, they're going to be honest with you, right? And you might feel occasionally like they're picking on you a little bit, yeah. But if they weren't picking on you, then they didn't care. So I put up there, take helpful advice and criticism and apply it. Do not be offended. So you do have to be able to take criticism from someone who has some experience, yeah. Maybe someone that knows what a good set is like, and typically that could be an experienced family member, but also a coach, someone that's willing to help you. So be sure to follow their advice and practice, practice, practice. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I guess read the questions that you all submitted and ask Kinsley and Louie to answer those questions. And then if y'all have additional questions, we'll do that. And after that, we also have another little activity that we want y'all to evaluate a couple of horses and talk about, and it will be your turn to practice some. So the first question that was submitted for the youth was, how many hours a week do you study? So Kinsley, I'm going to start with you to answer that question.
I'd say definitely during competition season, about 10 to 12. We have our team practice at the local library every Wednesday at 4 to 6. And then practicing on your own really helps too. So like when you're sitting on the couch at home, you can go to livestock judging and watch class and judge it. Or if you work, you can do it while no one's in the store or you're not busy.
Right. Kinsley works at our local Western Wear store. So if she's not waiting on a customer, I mean, that's the beauty of your phones, y'all. Y'all can pull those up and watch classes wherever you are, right? And if your county has a subscription to livestockjudging.com, it has multiple horse classes on there. And it's just an annual subscription. The Elite account allows you to view lots and lots of different classes. So whether you're riding a school bus or whether you're going on a family trip or something like that, pulling up classes and watching them is always really, really helpful. Lou, you have anything to add to that? How many hours you practice and study?
Like Kinsley said, during competition season, I do put in a lot of work. I try to come as many practices as I can. We all know that that's pretty hard for me to do, but when I'm here, I really try to give it my 110% effort. And I do put in a lot of hours, especially during livestockjudging.com. In class, when there's free time, I just get on there and I look at a class and I see the reasons they give on there, because sometimes they give an example. So, and sometimes I try to critique those reasons because sometimes they don't really go along with what I want. So I just try to critique them and see it from a judge's point of view too. And since I also show horses, I try to see how they go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
From a competitor and a judge's point of view.
Well, and evaluating your own horses at home is really important.
Yes.
The skills that you learn within the horse judging project will help you depending upon what type of horse discipline you want to enter in the future. And, there's certain things that we're going to look for, characteristics, especially, if we're competing in rodeo or if we're doing some type of equitation and English classes, those horses are going to look a lot different. So we need to know the different ways to evaluate them. So very good. So the next question is, how do I start horse judging and what materials do I read to practice? Getting started, guys.
I mean, what you can really do is email your local county agent and get some information from them, or go to your Texas 4-H website, and it can give you some details on there too. Like again, Becky said earlier, you can use these manuals, and it has a bunch of examples on how to do your reasons and how to practice. And so these manuals come in handy all the time.
Very good. You said something that I wanted to talk about too. Sometimes we don't always agree with what the judges see, and that's okay. It is a bit of a subjective contest, so do not get discouraged if you don't see exactly what the judges see. Even some of the confirmation classes that we've gone to this year, some of the officials, when they got together and they put cuts on the classes, they put ones across. That means that there's very little difference in the way these horses look or perform. So don't think that just because you didn't place them exactly the way they did, you may have seen something differently, and that's okay. So do not get discouraged if you're just getting started. What are tips that you use that help you form your reasons? We kind of talked about that, but
Again, I really like using the 9-box method. It really helps my sets to flow fluently, and it helps me to collect my thoughts better.
Yeah, I like to use the bullet points, especially. I think when you showed us that, Becky, it really changed it. Those bullet points, since they're shorter and they get to the point. I mean, it's the same with your reasons. You want to show the obvious and be accurate when you're talking to the judge. So the 9-box is really useful.
All right, guys, y'all heard it from the experts. Get those boxes out. This is a tough one. The question is, how do you find time to study? What has been the most successful studying method for you? Because y'all are both busy gals.
Yes.
So you just have to make time, right?
Yes, that's pretty much what I've been going off of this past year, is make the time. Because really, if you're in the restroom or if you're just sitting in bed scrolling on TikTok, you can easily just go on livestockjudging.com and look at a class, or just write a set of reasons, like I said, on any class, so you can just make up in your head. And that any type of practice is really useful.
Yeah, you got to make the time too, because remember, guys, this is a team event. And if you're not pulling your weight as a team member, then you're letting your other team members down. So not only are you studying for yourself, but you're studying for the team. And, it's been a lot of fun to be a part of some really successful teams. When they call your name out at State Roundup and tell you you're getting to represent the state of Texas at Denver at the National Western because your team score got you there, that is a great feeling. So make sure and make time to study so that your team is all on the same page. Next question is notes recommendations. So we looked at kind of the steno that I shared. Is there anything that y'all would want to add to that? We didn't really talk much about performance classes, but one of y'all want to talk about what your steno looks like for a performance class?
Yes. So when you start, you do not know what classes you're going to get a set of reasons for. So what I like to do is, after I write down a bunch of details for performance, when there's an obvious one, I write that down many times so I remember. But then again, while you're waiting for the next performance class, I like to write like a few sentences to start my reasons. So if I have to do that class, I'm ready to go and it's fresh.
Yeah. Make sure you write down the obvious. If there's somebody that's going to DQ, they're going to go to the bottom. If they're off pattern, kind of wait and see how the class shakes out. But yeah, write that down, and then you can go ahead and get started if you know for sure that that's how you feel about that class. We don't know until after the performance takes place what the officials are going to select, like Louis said, for the reasons classes. So you need to be prepared for everything. But if there's something that kind of comes easy that makes sense, go ahead and start working that up and be prepared for that. That's good advice. Anything to add to that, Kinsley, on notes?
When I'm judging a halter class, I like to place the horses in the first 2 or 3 minutes, and then I like to go down the line through each horse and write down what I see. in their box, and that helps me with my reasons.
That's fantastic because when we talk about horse judging, guys, our first impression is typically right. Like you can walk up and you can take a look at these horses and you can place them, yeah, in the first
Mhm.
minute or two, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever. Generally, your first impression is correct unless you go back and you study and you see a structural defect that you couldn't see from the profile, or you see something that definitely changes your mind. I will say this, once you have quick placed them, do not swap more than a pair because you're going to get yourself in trouble and you're going to get yourself confused. But if you do see something major that you see, you come around and this horse turns out to be really base wide or something, or is splay footed, and you didn't necessarily see that from the angle that you were quick judging at, then move them down a pair. But be careful, because you don't want to bust your trio a class that could cause a lot of problems for you. So excellent. This question says, how do I get the courage to speak without notes? And I love this question. I can't wait to hear y'all's answers on this. Courage to speak without notes.
Really just lots of practice and having a nice coach.
Nice.
I think
Use the word
50% of
nice.
it, 50% of it is really practice, but the other 50% is you really just have to go out there and do it. Once you do it the first time, it gets really like your confidence gets easier and easier. I remember the first time I did it at Katie, I was so scared, but now it's just like you expect it and the judges expect you to do it without notes. So like Becky said earlier, Dr. Schobert said you get your notes, you get a 20, and might as well go in there without notes so you can at least get a 30 to a 40 or maybe even a 50. So that's always better than a 20.
Yeah. You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot before the contest even starts, by carrying notes in. And I will tell you, find you an accountability person, such as a coach or a parent or a grandparent that says, hey, you can do this, and helps you follow through on that, because that helps as well. Teammates can also be great accountability people to make sure that, hey, we've got this, we can do this, and encouragers. So with that, those were all of the questions that were submitted. Miss Megan sent me by email ahead of time, but does anyone have a question before we move into doing a reason set and do a little bit of judging ourselves? Anyone have any questions right now? I see is that someone has their hand up. Go ahead and take your mute off so we can hear you.
At contest, I've seen a lot of people hold up their pencils whenever they're judging, especially during halter class. Could you explain that method?
Sure. Do you want that one? Because I've
Sure.
seen you do that recently.
Yes. So when we hold up a pencil or a pen, there's a few things we look at. We see the top part of the horse, the top line. So we see their withers and their croups are balanced throughout. You don't want one really high or really low with another. So we want to see that those are balanced. And another thing I like to do is make the pen or pencil equal up to the thirds of the horse. So the horse has things we call thirds when it's in the balance category. So we have from the shoulder to the nose of the horse, and then we have pretty much the stomach area of the horse, and then we have the hind end. So I like to make sure that the pen is equally balanced throughout, and if one is longer or shorter than the other, I'll write that down as well, because balance is our number one thing in a halter class. So I like to have that there on my steno.
I think that's great. Remember also ratios. If you take this pen and this pencil and cut it in half, then it helps you see that 2-to-1 ratio that you need from the top line to the belly or the underside of the horse. Or maybe you need to see the ratio from the pole to the withers as opposed to the neck. And so this thing's a pretty good little tool.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you asked that. That was a great question. Someone else has a question. Go ahead, Ingrid.
Hi. So a lot of times the parents will ask me how our reasons scored. And so I've searched online and I've found like one reason scorecard from the state of Idaho. And it seems pretty accurate, but like, so like you said, Sarah said at Houston, you know, if you read your notes, you got a 20. And the parents were like, how come you didn't tell us that? And I was like, I told you it was a lot. I don't know how much it is. So do you know like if there's a place we can find what their judging scorecard looks like for reasons?
I don't know that I do. I have seen the one that you're referring to. You know, some of the states do a better job than Texas actually in actually
Yeah.
providing more detail and information so far as reasons. You know, especially in the 4-H division, though, as long as you are your presentation skills are good and you're accurate, they're going to score you up. And that, I know that's real generalized, but
Yeah.
you know, going in there and being confident and like I mentioned, even if you didn't see the class the way the reasons taker did, a lot of times they will score you up if you are accurate and you are enthusiastic and confident, you know? So the more confidence that you have, again, it's a separate contest, you know, but I wish there were maybe some more guidelines as to exactly what they're looking for. I would
Right.
say, you know, the voice of experience, attending those particular clinics with Dr. Schobert. And, you know, they had one last weekend and I typically go, I didn't get to go this year, but I've been for the past 2 years. And she has, you know, several of her assistant coach, Dr. Megan Miller, helps out a lot. She's phenomenal. She judged our county show and will judge our part of our district show this coming year. But they're all very helpful if you just ask them. But so far as like having like a rubric or something like that to go by, I'm unaware of anything,
Yeah.
you know, specific.
Yeah. Sarah mentioned briefly that they were using the National Horse Judging Coaches Association rubric, and I wrote that down in my notebook, and then I Googled the heck out of it. I could not find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Great question. Okay. Oh, somebody's sharing right here.
I think someone found the kind of like the rubric thing.
Okay. It says Roan. Can you unmute? Are you able? Is your mic working?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Please,
Yeah,
please
I was
share.
able to find it. I looked it up, and then if you go on their website, they have the rubric, and if you scroll down, it does say how they judge the reasons. So we looked at that on our way home from Houston. We were like, oh, this is awesome. So that link should take you there. I just searched it again. So
Oh, and you shared the link in our chat. Fantastic.
yes, you click on it, it should work.
Thank you. Okay. So does anyone else have any questions? All right. It's already, it's 8:08. You know, time flies when you're having fun talking about horses, right? So let's take a look real quick at a couple of things. This next slide, and everybody get ready to interact because I'm going to ask y'all to help us out with this. So it's your turn. I have a picture of 2 different horses on the screen. And what I want to do is find your initial impression. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, but I want to know what your initial impression of these horses are. But somebody unmute themselves and tell me, what is one common characteristic that these 2 horses have alike?
They're horses.
They're both.
They're bays.
Right. They are both horses and they are both bay. Both of those are correct. All right. So other than those 2 things, I don't really think that they have a whole lot of stuff in common, right, guys? We mentioned, you know, color pattern is important, and when IDing, you know, a bay horse is going to have the brown body with the black mane and tail and up the legs. What other markings do you see on these particular horses? Who can tell me that? Go ahead, Ingrid.
On the first one, it has a little stalk on his right hind foot.
That's right. Very good. What? Somebody else tell me something different.
Black manes.
They do have black manes because they're bays. What about markings on the second horse with the halter? Anybody have any observations they want to make? Just about markings.
On its front left foot, it has a little bit of white.
Yeah. Okay. Back left also. Yeah. What do we call that? Sock. Absolutely. If that white were to go on up his cannon bone, up below the hock, what would we call that marking?
Stocking.
Stocking. Absolutely. So those are all IDs that we could make. Okay. So I want y'all to next think about if you were to walk into a class and see these individual horses. Remember I told you how important first impressions were? Obviously, if there's just two horses here, but if you were to place this class, you would immediately probably place it because you see something right away that catches your eye about these particular horses. So I'm going to say that the horse that's in the grass with her head down is a mare. Somebody tell me what is the first thing, your initial impression about this mare?
She's fast. She's big. She's hedges. She's big.
She's pregnant.
Yeah. I would be willing to bet that she's probably in foal. She's probably carrying a foal because look at her barrel, look at her chest. You know, it is way out there protruding down. So that's my first thing I'm going to notice about her. All right, let's switch gears and let's go to the other guy in the back. Bless his heart. What's the first thing that you notice about this guy?
He's strong. We need some weight.
Maybe underweight. Okay. What else can you say about him?
His neck is kind of upside down looking.
Okay.
His neck's real short.
Not proportioned well. Okay.
He doesn't have as good of a top line as the first one.
I agree with that 100%. If we were looking for balance, structure, quality, muscling, would this guy get any pluses at all? No, he probably wouldn't. I would immediately, because he's the gelding, I would say, man, look at that stifle muscle and the absence of any muscling in the Gaskin region. You know, I'd be like, man, he looks pretty rough. Okay. So if you were to take these horses away and do your notes, and you're in the middle of a set, guys, and you are nervous because it's one of your first sets, hopefully you will be able to visualize these two horses and be thinking about the very first impression, and then you can go back and relate to that, you know, as a point if you're stumbling. Yeah. So always write down your first impressions. Very, very important. Anybody have any other comments they want to make about these two horses? Okay, like I say, ooh, it is 8:13. We're gonna start wrapping up. Does anyone have any other final questions for Louis or Kinsley about their experience on the horse judging team, or anything we want to talk about that we didn't cover?
I think we're good.
I don't think
All right. Well, I will say this, guys. I appreciate everybody's attention, and I appreciate y'all's enthusiasm for judging horses. It's something that you will take with you as a lifelong skill, especially within the horse industry. Is no matter what direction you go, it will be beneficial to you as a future horse owner, because if you know conformation and you know how to evaluate horses based upon their you know, character and type and kind on the criteria that we learn in horse judging, it's going to be a huge asset to you in the future as a horse owner. I guess we don't have anything else other than, Kinsley, you want to? You got this?
Sure.
All right. I put Kinsley on the spot and asked her to do this, but she's going to end our presentation tonight with a reason set. And again, this was a halter class, performance mares. So I'm actually going to step aside and let her do this. In fact, let's do it this way, Kinsley. I'm the reasons taker. And remember, the reasons taker is going to be seated. Louis will be seated next to me because a lot of times in a contest, you're going to have a scribe that's going to take down notes for. And then as Kinsley walks in, what's going to happen is she's going to come to me and she's going to stand a comfortable distance from me. She's not going to be in my personal space, but she's not going to be way out there. But she's going to come up to me. She's going to look me in the eye. And typically the reasons taker is going to nod or smile whenever they're ready. And then she'll take a deep breath and she'll begin her set. So here we go.
I placed the performance mares 4, 1, 2, 3. Starting with my top pair, I had 4 over 1. I liked 4 to win because she was the most divisible into thirds and had strong, prominent withers. While horse 1 had a longer, neater neck, when standing from the side, she was downhill a little, leaving her second. In my middle pair, I had 1 over 2. I liked 1 over 2 because she was more feminine. She had smaller, cuter ears and a kinder eye. While horse 2 had a smaller frame to her, she was lighter muscled, leaving her in third. In my bottom pair, I had 2 over 3. I liked 2 over 3 because of her overall quality. She was cleaner and neater. While 3 had good muscle definition in her forearm and gaskin, she was a little long in her barrel, leaving her last. Again, I placed the performance mares 4, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
All right, let's give Kinsley a hand for doing that. Thank you very much. I hope that there are a couple of things that you noticed throughout the set. You know, her voice changed as she talked through the boxes. You know, she was confident when she talked about that class winner. And then when she went to the criticism box, you know, well, it was just too bad that this guy or that this girl wasn't any better, you know, and you could hear that in her voice. So I thought that was really, really a good job. So thank you, Kinsley. I'm proud of you for doing that. So guys, I think we're going to wrap everything up. Again, unless you have any other questions, we look forward to seeing you and your teams competing at future horse judging contests. If I can help in any way, remember I'm at Coryell County as the 4-H agent, and you know, look me up and tell me about your horses. I'd love to hear about them. And thank y'all for being with us this evening.
Thanks, Miss Becky. Thanks, Kinsley. Thanks, Louie.
All right,
Thank
y'all
you.
have a good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks, Becky. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, is everybody else done?
No, the livestock youth is still going.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
I got talkers in there, so.
Well, we weren't sure about how long it was going to take us, and you know, it was like, well, it'll be what it'll be. And so,
Yeah, so that's what Paisley asked me. She's like, "Do we have a time limit?" And I was like, "Just do whatever feels right."
well, and so she may be on at midnight.
Yeah. Well, they're finished with their presentation. They're just answering questions. So
Yeah.
I thought it was good. Both sets, horse and
Awesome.
livestock. Off the top of my head, and I think it was a good time too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank y'all for everything.
Yeah, you bet. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good evening.
hey, Cassie,
Yep.
I'm gonna send out the evaluation. Will you send it to all your kids that participated?
Yeah, I will. We had
Okay.
6 in livestock and 6 in horse, but yes.
Okay, awesome.
And I
Thank
think I
you.
actually have a couple more that we're gonna watch the recording. So
Perfect.
so
That
anyway.
we do too.
Yeah.
But thank y'all
So-
again.
I'm just gonna send out the evaluation link with the recording, and so everybody can hopefully get it done then.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Perfect.
awesome. Thank y'all. See you later. Happy Easter.
Thanks. Yes. Happy Easter. Where my deal went?
Your mouse is up there.
Now it went up there.
Lord. How do I get rid of it?
Maybe you just disconnected it.
It's gone. Ooh, what's that red box?
It escaped in the top one.
Kinsley, you're so smart.